according to your polls, both the Pennsylvania governor's race as well as the Senate race are very close, and the Republican candidates are in the margin of error here. So, what issues are you seeing that are resonating with PA voters?
Well, we're going to go back in the field again soon. But what we saw is the economy. People are very frustrated about the economy. They are very frustrated about basically all things Biden administration. Uh, you know, People in Pennsylvania have lost people close to them based on fentanyl that's coming across the southern border. So they're worried about the border. People in Pennsylvania are worried about the cost of groceries. They're worried about the cost of all energy completely across the board. They're worried about their energy related jobs because he had a president who said he's against fracking. It's costing Pennsylvania jobs. You have a U.S. Senate nominee who's against it, and they are also very worried about crime. And so they're just completely out of line with where the people are. I mean, what we have now in most states is a rejection. I mean, you just look at Biden's approval. They're rejecting Biden, and anybody. I mean, when you cut through all the nonsense of an election year, and there's a lot of nonsense, and we all know this. When you're electing a U.S. Senate candidate, you're electing somebody to press a blue button that says, "Keep doing what you're doing, keep rolling with your Biden agenda, keep passing what you're passing," or a big red button that says, "Stop and stop this agenda." And when it's all said and done, that's what it's going to come down to. And so when all the confusion is passed, that's what people are voting on. And Biden, I always say that running with Biden is like having a house full of termites. Everything may look fine on the outside. Nobody's talking about it, but before everything's said and done, it's going to be the only thing that matters. And I think that is going to be the case in these races with Biden as as kind of the top of the ticket. He might not be running this year, but he is clearly almost every Democrat's running mate, whether they like it or not. And I think that for a while, people weren't talking about Fetterman. Just have a good taste. He was in the hospital, he was recovering, but now that he's out, the people are talking about him, and so they kind of laid off of Fetterman, but nobody laid off of Oz. Now both of them are kind of getting it full barrel, and when they both get it full barrel and the records come out, there's certainly a lot of exposure there. And the governor's race, they got two tools. If you believe that attending the rally on January 6th, not going to the Capitol, make you ineligible to be governor. If you believe questioning the 2020 election in Pennsylvania specifically make you ineligible to be governor, then you know what? There's no chance he's not, Mastriano's not going to get elected governor. But we don't think either one of those is disqualifying based on the numbers we're seeing.
So, you're not seeing voters disqualify that he is a further right candidate than we're seeing Dr. Oz. But your polling does say that as of now, yeah, I know you're going to go back in Pennsylvania, that the Democrats, both Democratic candidates, Josh Shapiro and John Fetterman, are polling slightly ahead. So what in their messaging is working?
Well, I think they just started ahead to begin with. I mean, first of all, do you remember the really nasty primary where Shapiro won and the really nasty primary where Fetterman won? You don't, because it didn't happen. When people go through nasty primaries, you have Republicans at the end who are mad. I mean, you look at how close Oz's primary was. You look at how close Mastriano's primary was. When Republicans don't win, they get angry and they're going to take their football home and not play anymore. And it takes a while for them to kind of get back on board. But I said this at the time. You might be mad that Oz won. You might say, I really want a McCormick. McCormick's a great guy, and McCormick is a great guy. But in the end, you're not voting for Fetterman. I don't care what you say, but the people who voted for McCormick will not be voting for Fetterman because they were voting for a conservative. And so it's not a matter of what in their messaging's working. It's a matter of they're not following, they're still falling slowly from where they started. Now, the messaging, the only thing that I see the Democrats working is the idea that the quote unquote Inflation Reduction Act, what it did for some of the pricing for senior citizens on some of the prescription drugs, that's the place that they're having the most success. We see some success among those seniors. who really don't, the argument has not been made carefully enough. I've always made the point that Republicans tend to assume people understand that big spending leads to inflation, but I don't know that they do. And I'd see no evidence that people naturally understand that. I think that has to be explained, and I don't think it's been explained. People have assumed people understand it. But what is an emerging issue in Pennsylvania is crime. And I will tell you, I think that those teenagers rushing in and tearing through that Wawa is going to be a defining moment in the Pennsylvania race. And it has put this idea of out of control crime on the front burner. And I think just as the student loan thing started to shift things a lot against Democrats, I think in Pennsylvania, what happened to that Wawa is going to be a demarcation point that is not going to bode well.
So the picture you're painting of PA is that while Fetterman and Shapiro are ahead, you think, from what I'm hearing, is that Dr. Oz as well as Doug Mastriano are going to pull through. Do you think that Pennsylvania will be red come Election Day, November?
I think it's going to be tight.
It's going to be tight.
And in Pennsylvania, when things are tight, you don't know what's going to happen. But I think it is distinctly possible. I mean, people say, what's going to happen? November's a long way away. And we've seen a lot of things come in the middle of an election that can change things on a dime. I mean, you look at the impact the Hunter Biden laptop would have made had it been known. You look at the impact that the fact that there was going to be a vaccine for COVID, had it come out before the election, the impact it would have made. There are all kind of things that did have impact. Comey and Hillary Clinton had a big impact. There are things that will happen that can change it. But I would tell you, if that election was in 2 weeks, I'd put my money on Oz and Shapiro winning. I mean, Oz and Mastriano winning. But a lot can happen. So if you want to know how it's going to look on Election Day, ask me closer to Election Day. But right now, I'd say I think if it was next couple of weeks, I'd count on the Republicans to pull through.